Okay, well, welcome everyone to today's lesson. We are going to be looking at IELTS Writing 2 and how to write conclusions, or sometimes called summary statements. So, conclusions are pretty easy. The main problem with conclusions is people try to make them too complicated, and they try to put in things that they don't need to. So the whole purpose of a conclusion in your IELTS is to summarize your ideas, and if the question asks you for opinion, just restate your opinion. That's all you need to do. Remember, you're not writing really big like university essays here. We're writing a 250-word essay. The majority of your marks, especially for task response, are all coming in your main body paragraphs, because a lot of it is involved around development of ideas. So in your conclusion, you're not going to be worrying about developing ideas, so that shouldn't be an issue. You're just summarizing the main ideas, restating your opinion. In any conclusion, whenever you write a conclusion, don't add new information. So don't add new ideas. And what we don't need to do here is we don't need to have future predictions. You don't need to leave on questions or do any of these funny, flashy, tricky things. We're just summarizing the ideas.
When you summarize your main idea, you need to summarize the explanation. Do not.
Sorry, I have to mute some students. So moving on, and then you don't need to summarize explanations. That's the other issue I see sometimes people do, is that they will do what they need to do, and again, they're adding extra information. And also, we don't need to paraphrase a question statement. People love to paraphrase a question statement again. Paraphrasing is really difficult. Having to do it twice in an essay, terrible idea. You're not going to lose any marks from putting the paraphrase in. You're not going to lose any marks for putting in future predictions. But you just don't need to do it. You don't have a lot of time in the writing section of your IELTS. So keep it simple. As always, summarize main ideas, restate opinion. That's all you've got to do. Little tip. Your conclusion should basically be a paraphrase of your outline statement. So while you're not paraphrasing the question statement, what you put in your introduction, the second part of your introduction, that's what you're paraphrasing. So you're just basically repeating all the information what's in there. If you're writing discussion essays, don't forget to summarize the main ideas for both views. So what a lot of students will do in discussion essays, I've noticed, is they'll summarize the view that they agree with, they'll state that they agree with this idea, and they'll completely and utterly forget about the other idea. Or what they might do is just repeat the given view. Remember, you're meant to be summarizing your ideas. You're not repeating the views which were given in the question, you're repeating your ideas. So those are the main pitfalls that people have when writing conclusions. So today's question was, and we've been looking at this for the last couple of weeks, some people like to try new things, for example, places to visit and types of food. Other people prefer to keep doing things that they are familiar with, discuss both these attitudes, and give your own opinion. So we're not going to say some people like to try new things and other people like to keep doing things they're familiar with. We need to say why they like to try new things. We need to say why they prefer to do things they're familiar with, and we need to show which attitude we agree with. So we had some ideas that we've come up with the last couple of lessons. So our first topic sentence was, on the one hand, some believe it is preferable to do the same activities which they are familiar with because they are scared of doing new activities. So it was very much this being scared of new activities was one idea. And then we said, on the other hand, other people like to try new experiences because they are bored of doing the same activities. So one idea is scared of the activities and one is bored of the same activities. So these are the ideas that we're summarizing. And we said that idea 2 is strong. Okay, so this is the one that we agreed with, the second topic sentence. So I am going to pass it over to my students now and let them try and write some summary statements. Remember, when we do this, you can write it in one sentence, 2 sentences, up to you. There's no like sentence limit here, but I would say you probably don't need to write more than 2 sentences. So if you're writing more than 2 sentences, you're probably adding far too much information. Okay, so as I said, over to my students. Hello, Mona, nice to see you. So I've got some students here. Anyone who's watching this on YouTube, basically I have a chat box, so my students will write their sentences, their conclusions, and we will have a look and give them feedback on those sentences. So if you, again, are watching this on YouTube, have a go at this at home. Try and write a conclusion or a summary statement, and you can post it in the notes of this essay. And basically, we were just going to give up my students a couple of minutes to think about how to write a conclusion for these ideas. Vanessa joined us. Hello, Vanessa. Nice to see you. So, Vanessa, what we're doing at the moment is we're writing a conclusion for this essay. But don't worry. So we've got these 2 ideas. Remember, we are summarizing these, and the second idea is strong. Mary is the first. Good job. Let's have a look, Mary. In conclusion, despite the fact that trying new activities can be scary, I believe that doing various activities helps people not being bored. Okay, so good way to start. In conclusion, what are the 2 ways to start? We've got in conclusion or to conclude. Yeah, we're always going to start with that. Are you going to start with to recapitulate? No, why not? Why do we not want to use all this ridiculously fancy language? It's not natural, is what it comes down to. So we don't want to use fancy words because native speakers don't write fancy words, and your vocabulary is scored on being able to write naturally. So the natural way to write a conclusion is in conclusion. So we are going to avoid all these fancy words, and we're going to use a word that we know works every single time. You don't get any extra marks for saying to recapitulate, but it seems incredibly unnatural, and you would never have a native speaker writing like this. So either in conclusion or to conclude, we always have a comma after these expressions because they're introductory prepositional phrases. So this is nice. We've got despite. We can also use although or while are going to be like words that start complex sentences for discussion essays, because you're going to show one view and then the other. So despite the fact that trying new activity is going to be scary, this first part is absolutely fine. If we are going to use these words like despite or although, remember they start dependent clauses, so we need commas after them. So good job here, Mary. I believe that. Okay, so this is very clear. Doing various activities helps people. So this expression is a little bit awkward. Helps people not being bored. Can any one of my students tell me what would be a slightly more natural way to say this? So help and bored don't really go together. Avoid, you're on the right track, but not quite. So I would say if you're trying to say in a positive way, we would say makes someone bored, but we don't want to say that. We want the opposite. So on the negative way, I would not avoid. How could I say this in the negative? Stops. There we go. Yeah. So I believe that doing various activities stops people. And then we want a preposition here. From. Brilliant. From being bored. So this would be more natural. So when we talk about bored, you can, normally we want to talk about preventing it. So we say, stops you from being bored. Okay. Apart from that, this is really good. Has anyone in the chat got any questions about this? I think this is really clear, which is nice. We're summarizing the idea. What we can we use in summary? I would still use it in conclusion or to conclude. It's a lot better than fancy words, but we just don't need to, Marisol. We know these work. So if we know this is the correct answer, why look for another answer? So it's not a terrible expression in summary, but I would still really stick to in conclusion or to conclude. They're just a bit more natural. Okay. If you're writing conclusions for anything else after you finish the IELTS, you can start writing however you like. But when you're doing the IELTS, just have in conclusion or to conclude. Okay, here we've got some more. So I've got some over here. To conclude, although that some people scared from trying activities, I am with the opinion that doing different activities can help people not being bored. Okay, and we need a full stop at the end of this. Well, let's have a look at this. What word is incorrect at the beginning of this? Can anyone tell me in the chat? That. Yeah, I can never use that and although together. So although is going to start my dependent clause. So although some people scared, who can tell me, is scared an adjective or is it a verb? In this instance, adjective. So when we have an adjective, we always need a verb before the adjective. So yeah, we could either use, so Mary said, get scared, and Nibiga said, are scared. The most natural verb to use with adjectives is simply the verb to be. So get also works in, but I think you'll find the verb to be is more natural. And if you get into the habit of using the verb to be with adjectives, it's a good habit. So here I'm going to use the verb to be. But although some people are scared, we don't say scared from. We say scared, what is that preposition? Yeah, scared of, excellent. Well done, Nabila. So you can remember this, we always use these two together. So although some people are scared of trying new activities, good. When we have this scared of, this is the correct way to follow it. So you're scared of, and then you're going to have a thing. So you can either have scared of, let's say, scared of spiders. So you could have a noun, but if you're going to talk about an activity, it's going to have to be in the gerund expression. So this is correct. Although some people are scared of trying new activities, always need a capital I in English. This is one of those things your examiner is just going to jump out on the examiner. So don't make these like capital letter mistakes. Something like the examiner will just see it before they even read your essay. Then it's going to, they're going to look at that and think, oh, this is not going to be a good essay. So you don't want to, you don't want to be putting the examiner in that frame of mind. So whenever possible, make sure you're checking. Okay. So although some people are scared of trying new activities, I am, we don't say I am with the opinion. Can someone tell me what the preposition here? Yeah, good job, Nabila. I am of the opinion. And then we need the definite article here. So I am of the opinion that doing different activities can help people not being bored. So what did we say here? We don't help bored. So rather than help and trying to use bored in the negative, whenever we can, we're trying to use the positive. Like when you always put things in the negative, it gets a little bit confusing. So if we possibly can refer to bored in the positive. So we're going to stop help and we're going to use, what are we going to use instead of help? So Mary had this before, stops, yeah. This is our collocation. Doing different activities, can we stop? We need the infinitive because it's can stop people. Then we would say from being bored. Mary asked, can we say prohibit? It can prohibit people from being bored. Prohibit was better than help and not be bored, but it's still not particularly natural. So if you're going to try and talk about preventing boredom, this is your expression. Okay, you don't need any other expression. It's stop people from being bored. Okay, just you can remember that works. You don't need anything else. Simplicity is the mantra, exactly, Mary. So, and it's just because it's natural. So it would be very, very strange to say and it prevents people from being bored or prohibits. So it's just a little bit awkward. So we're going to go with what's natural. Okay, so good job for this person. Let's have a look at our next. Someone I've not looked at, can you please post one of your conclusions in the chat? Okay, we'll go with Marisol. And Vanessa, is your internet getting any better? I know you were saying you're having some connection issues. Okay, so in conclusion, so although, nice, so this is the other option, we've got this although. A mistake I see many people make with although is they put a comma after it. We never put a comma after although. The comma comes at the end of the dependent clause. So in conclusion, although doing the same things, people avoid facing fears, I think that new experiences provide more fun. Okay, so we definitely got two ideas and our opinion is clear. So this is the main thing. This is a little bit strange. Although doing the same things, people avoid fears. So what I think we're trying to do here is write a condition. So how would we use a conditional in this instance to change the sentence structure? What word do we use for conditionals? Mary says when, yeah. When or if. So both of these would be fine here. I think when is slightly more natural. So although when, and then if we start a conditional, I need the subject first. So Maris, actually, yeah, people. So the people part, we're going to cut it from here. When people. Then when we write first or second conditionals, what verb tense should we use in the when clause? Present simple, yeah. Good job, Nabila. So although when people do the same things, so then we have to have the consequence. So comma, subject, they avoid facing fears. The fears belong to them. So what would be slightly more natural here? They avoid facing whose fears? Good job, yeah. Their fears. Okay. Not Thor's fears. I think Google has been watching too much Avengers, right? They avoid facing their fears. Then comma here is good. So all of this is our conditional, but it's also all dependent. So this is the first half of our although. I think that new experiences provide more fun. Can anyone tell me what would be slightly more natural collocation rather than saying provide? So provide is the word we don't want. Gives more fun? Nope. Simpler, brings more fun, makes more fun? Nope. Offers more fun? Nope. Fun is a word people really struggle to talk about. I've noticed this. Simply are more fun. Something is fun, they are fun. So we use the verb to be with fun. What type of word is fun? Is it a noun or an adjective? In this instance, adjective. So what did I say before about what verb should we use with adjectives? The verb to be. Hence, we're using the verb to be. How do we know it's an adjective and not a noun? What do adjectives do? They qualify. What do they qualify, Vanessa? What do they describe? Adjectives. Adjectives do not describe verbs. New experiences. Yep. So what are new experiences? What type of word is this? Mine, excellent. Yes, they describe a noun. So an experience is a noun. So an adjective describes a noun. So we know that it's an adjective here, not a noun, because sometimes fun can be a noun. But in this instance, we know it's an adjective because it's describing the noun. So words that describe nouns are adjectives. And words that describe verbs are adverbs. Mary. And then someone said, when asked, can we say it can be more fun? Yep, that also works. As long as we're using the verb to be with fun. That's the natural collocation. Mary said, are more fun activities. So I think that new experiences are more fun activities. Sure, the activity is just not necessary. I think this would be as simple as we get. So in conclusion, although when people do the same things, they avoid facing fears, I think the new experiences are more fun. Excellent. So we're answering this well. So a nice example of using a conditional here within a complex sentence. So if you're ever wondering, how do I use a conditional within a complex sentence? This is it. And this is what we call a complex sentence. You have the dependent followed by the independent clause. So good job. An interesting sentence there. And notice that all of my students here are just giving me one sentence, and that is absolutely fine. You don't need any more. So don't sit there panicking going, oh, how can I write many, many sentences for a conclusion? Your conclusion should be really short. It should be the shortest paragraph of your essay. Okay, who is up next? Vanessa. Let's have a look. So to conclude, although some individuals are scared of trying these things, good. I believe trying new activities prevent boredom. So this is nice. The ideas are there, the opinion is there. There is a subject-verb agreement issue, if anyone of my students can pick it out. Very excellent. Yes, we would say prevents boredom. So quickly on a grammar thing, we have a look at this. So we've got again, always coming back to this subject, verb, object. So our subject is trying new activities. When our subject starts with a gerund, that's this ing form. It's a noun form of a verb. So when we see this as at the beginning of your sentence, so trying new activities, this is always singular. So anytime you have a noun phrase that begins with a gerund, it's singular. So this needs to take the third person. Okay. Apart from that, we're all good. I thought this was really nice. Something I see a lot of students were doing, which is the first topic sentence didn't do, and I think it's actually quite a good idea. For a discussion essay, they are putting in some individuals, or some people believe, or it's nice to show this is not your opinion. So what we could do in this first one, to do the same kind of thing, to make it very, very clear that the first idea is someone else's attitude and the second one is our attitude. We can say, despite the fact, where are we? Like that. Despite the fact that some people find trying activities despite the fact some people find trying new activities to be scary, I believe. So in this one, is it essential? No. Is an examiner, is it really likely to change a score? Probably not. But I think it is really nice writing to show that, okay, this is very clearly other people's opinion, and this is very clearly our opinion. Like here, this is very clearly other people's opinion. This is very clearly our opinion. It just makes the cohesion a little bit better. So Mary said, what happens if we forget to put some people? Honestly, the examiner isn't there looking out for that. It just makes your writing feel stronger. So it's a little tip. Is that one thing going to change your score? It's not going to change your score from an 8 to a 9, or an 8 to a 7, or a 7 to a 6. It just sounds better. So you've got to understand when the examiner is reading, like there's lots of little things that just go together, and it's like, oh, it just feels like it goes together well. That's one of those little things that just makes your writing feel very, very natural. So it's emphasizing one person's point of view, other person's point of view. If you didn't put it in, as I said, it's probably not going to change your grade, but I'm telling you, it makes your writing better, it sounds better. And when an examiner is looking at an essay, it's like, oh, it just feels good. They're more in the mood, like if other things are on the borderline, and they just like, they feel that the essay is well written, like with just little touches like that, they're more likely to push you over to the higher end than the lower end. So it's nice to write like this, if that makes sense to you. Okay, so have we got Rie? I want to be them. Let's go with Rie first. So in conclusion, although doing the activities is challenging for some people, good, I believe that trying them will give more good opportunities in their lives. Okay, so we definitely got clear ideas, nice sentence structure. Our opinion is clear. What is the problem with this? It's not so much language. Yeah, this part here especially, give them good opportunities. So what was our, which one was it? Second idea. So the main idea from our second idea is they are bored of doing the same activities. So it's really important in our conclusion that this idea is here. So giving them good opportunities and being bored is not the same. So this is like you are introducing a new idea. So I think the first part you can get away with doing new activities is challenging. That kind of proves it's a little bit scary for some people. So I like that. I believe that trying them will. So let's just reword this using what we've said earlier. How do I talk about prohibiting boredom in a better way? What is our natural way of expressing this? Stop here. Stop what? Or stop who? People. Thank you, Nabila, from being bored. I just here wanted to point out a little grammatical thing that I see a lot of people struggle with these verbs. When a verb has, like here, how many objects does this verb have? Two. We've basically got the people and the thing that it's stopping them from being bored. So when you have two objects, it's normally you have one of the objects is going to be the person who receives the thing, and the second object is what they are receiving. So you put the people, the person first, and the thing that they receive second. So give us a very common example of this. So I gave, here we have a double object verb, gave. So I have the person first, the thing that I'm giving to Susan second. So what, a lot of people try and do is like, I gave a present to someone. It's possible. Let's say too soon. This is more awkward. I'm not going to say it's wrong in this instance, but gave Susan the present is a much more natural way that you'll find that native speakers talk. They always think about the person who's given to first and the thing that's being given next. So obviously in different languages, you're going to have different object orders, but this is the more natural way of doing it. Okay. Okay. That's it. Let's move on to our next conclusion. So we can have a look at Mona's, and then I think Mona had another one, so we'll have a look at that. So in conclusion, although some people prefer to do the same activities because they are afraid of changes, I believe that trying new activities is preferable because I get bored of repeating the same activities. Okay, so we have two clear ideas here. It's very obvious that we're talking about one person's attitude and my attitude, so that's really nice. The only problem here is this expression. So we don't normally say afraid of changes. Does anyone know? It's a really minor difference. Change, yeah, it's not plural. So it's quite a common fixed expression. So you're afraid of change, not afraid of changes. So although some people prefer to do the same activities because they are afraid of change, I believe that trying activities is preferable because I get bored of repeating the same activities. So excellent. We're very clearly discussing both attitudes. We summarized our ideas. Not trying to be fancy. Very, very clear. Great job. And then Mona had a new one. Let's have a look. So in conclusion, I am with people who think that doing new activities stop them from being bored, despite of trying new activities is challenging for others. Okay, so definitely we've got two clear ideas. I don't say I am with people. What would be the more natural expression here? Agree, there we go. So I agree with people who think that doing new activities. Aha. So this is what we had earlier. So this is our subject. Our subject begins with an ing. So our verb should be good job, Mary. Stops, yeah. So gerundial phrase needs to be followed with a third person. I agree with people who think that doing the activity stops them from being bored, despite despite of doesn't work here. Despite so what is our subject in this? So the trying doesn't work here. Oh, actually, let's say despite trying the activities. The vocabulary is just a little bit strange. Let me see how I can reword it. I think, despite. I would just say the new activities here. So I think this is going to be a little bit more natural. Despite new activities being challenging for others. Doing activities, despite new activities being challenging for others. Okay, yeah, that would work. So could be challenging. What I feel is more natural here is you could use despite. Again, if it's all possible, like trying to avoid all these gerundial phrases, I think that really overly used these gerunds at the beginning. So despite the fact that new challenge activities are challenging for others. So I think this would be a little bit better. And then this is, yeah, this reads a little bit better. So the despite of this is where you're getting in trouble with this despite, and there's the kind of structures that follow despite. So we can have instead of this maybe activity is challenging for others. This would be a little bit more natural. So we can have despite the fact or even though. I think these two structures could work a little bit better in this instance. Okay. But so actually, this is another thing. So I'm coming on to the conclusion. If possible, when you're concluding, is it better to conclude using noun phrases, or is it better to conclude using clauses? Mary says clauses, Nabila says clauses, other Mary says clauses, and Vanessa says clauses. Yeah, clauses much better. What is a clause? What basically, by definition, is a clause? So Mary says subject, verb, object, which is a complete idea. So the whole purpose of an independent clause is it is a complete idea. So if you're summarizing your ideas, it's really good to write in complete ideas. So a lot of students I've noticed in both their outline statements and also in their conclusions try and give their ideas as noun phrases. At times it works, but many times it's really unnatural. It is much better to just try and keep it simple and writing clauses. So here, like, despite the fact that some people, subject, verb, object. I believe that subject, verb, object. Here, some people prefer to do the same activities because subject, verb, object, because subject, verb, object. So keeping this subject, verb, object, like keeping it as clauses rather than trying to write in noun phrases, you're going to find your writing is a lot clearer. Which brings us back to when you write despite of. Despite of is always followed by a noun phrase, which is why it's ended up really awkward, this final conclusion. So if possible, in the mantra of keeping things simple, just try and write clauses. Don't try and summarize your ideas in noun phrases, if at all possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. It's not possible at times, but if you want to be right most of the time, it's a lot easier for you to write in clauses. Okay. So I think we've covered everyone's conclusions. Was there anyone else of my students who need me to go over their conclusion? So Mary said, what is the difference between a band 8 and a band 7? So this is an interesting question. Someone asked me this the other day. Said, what is a band 8 topic sentence? There is no such thing as a band 8 topic sentence. There is no such thing as a band 8 conclusion. These are just things that you need to do, and they're combined with lots of other things to get the band 8, to get the band 7. So it depends. So what is the difference between band 8 and band 7 for what? For task response, for coherence, cohesion, for vocabulary, for grammar? Because these are what you've got to be thinking about band 8, band 7. No one's marking you as a body paragraph as a band 8. That doesn't exist. The examiner has these four categories. Task response, coherence, cohesion, vocabulary, and grammar. But as Nabila says, to get for most of what you want is error-free sentences. So error-free sentences are going to affect your grammar, your vocabulary, and your coherence and cohesion. So three of the 4 parts of your essay are affected by writing error-free sentences. And then task response is about idea development, so that's slightly different. But error-free sentences, if you start writing error-free sentences, that is where you start going from band 7s, 7.5s, and up to 8s, writing error-free sentences. And to do that, keeping it simple. Okay. Using language that you're 100% sure of. I mean, as I said, to get up to the band 7, you really have pretty simple language. Your grammar has to be using complex sentences, but complex sentences aren't always particularly complex. For example, this is a complex sentence. This first sentence here, but it's not particularly complex language. So just because it's called complex, we just need two different clauses, so an independent clause and dependent clause, and you're writing complex sentences. Okay. So compound and complex sentences. And look them up. There's loads of really good resources on the internet. If anyone's watching this at home, compound and complex sentences, make sure you understand how to write them. Okay, so thank you to all of my students who came along today. Some really interesting conclusions. Most of them are really good. As you can see from this, you only need one sentence for your conclusion. No need to add anything extra, no need for adding paraphrasing, no need for trying to make it complicated. Keep it as simple as possible. Try and have your ideas in clauses, not in noun phrases. And if you've got questions about anything, or if you'd like me to have a look at your conclusion, post them in the chat of this video.